Tshwane opposition parties want to eject the Speaker. The ATM's Mncedi Ndzwanana. The multi-party coalitions resolved to support ActionSA's motion of no confidence after he had blocked similar motions in the past. Well, why again more difficulties like this in Tshwane? Professor Dirk Kotze is a professor of political science at the University of South Africa. Professor, good evening to you. If the DA coalition, the DA-led coalition, fails to remove the ATM Speaker here, could they be tempting fate? Could they actually be leading to a situation where they reveal the balance of power is not as with them as they thought it was?
Yes, that is the risk, but I think they are in a better position than a week or so ago. Yesterday there was a by-election which the DA won. It was one of their seats. So they have again a majority in the council, and I think that is what they were waiting for. It's a very slim majority, but it is the majority that they need for this. So they are actually in a strong position that they can be successful with this motion. And that is why I think it is the Speaker is dragging his feet so much in order to allow this motion to serve, and that the vote can take place on this. So in this case, I think the DA is slightly better than in the future, in the past, and I think they are better prepared also for this election. Last time that they voted, for example, they made the big mistake of putting numbers on the ballot papers, and then all of them were rejected, and that is why we have the Speaker now from the opposition.
The DA making the argument today that one of the reasons they wanted to remove the Speaker. Now look, the ATM has worked with the ANC and the FF in the past, but they say the Speaker shouldn't really be opposed to the party in power. And there's a really interesting debate here, because since we became a democracy, the Speaker in the National Assembly has come from the ANC, and that's still the case now. And other countries, they do it slightly differently. They have a neutral person, or they have a person who comes from a party but then sort of leaves the party that they come from. Is the system that we have, the more vote, if you're the majority, you get to basically have the Speaker, is that really the best system?
It's not necessarily the best system, but given what we have seen now, or where we are now, where each vote actually counts and where the majorities are so slim, that will be very difficult to have a completely independent person, because that will then, I guess, means that person should not be a member of the council in order to be, because if the results of the election gives the different parties a certain number of votes, and sometimes it depends on 1 or 2 seats or votes in order to have the majority or not, then it becomes complicated. It's in some places the Speaker, for example, where there's constituency systems, they don't participate in the elections. They are automatically re-elected. In the Westminster systems, they do that quite often. So it tries to depoliticize then the Speaker as in terms of the role that the office must play in Parliament. We unfortunately don't have that at the moment. And I think the importance of the Speaker is what we've seen all the time, is that the Speaker has the last say on what can serve on the agenda of each and every meeting of the Council. And that is obviously a very important position to be in, because they can determine, for example, whether motions of no confidence will serve in a meeting or be tabled in a meeting or not.
Tomorrow, members of the DA, the ANC, the UDM, and I think several other smaller parties are going to have a meeting in Parliament, chaired by the Deputy President, Paul Mncedi, to discuss possible changes to the way coalitions are managed. Now, the ANC and the DA, I think, have some areas of agreement. They disagree on other measures. Do you expect this to be a constructive meeting?
I think there's good chance for that. As you say, there's convergence of ideas about this. On some matters, for example, the idea of having a threshold, a minimum threshold for parties in order to be able to qualify to have seats in Parliament, appears to be now some of the ideas that different parties are in favour of. Another one is that there must be a limited number of opportunities to have motions of no confidence per year. Whether it's at local government level, we don't know yet what will be the case in provincial and national level. But that's another point of convergence that there exists. I think there's consensus that it can't be just an open-ended situation, but there must be some form of regulations or management of coalitions in future. For example, there's also the idea that coalition agreements must be more binding and must be open to the public to know what is exactly the content of them. And I think on both sides there's some sense of that this is a fair idea, that it should be applicable to all parties.
Is the window for reform going to close at next year's election? Do we need to move on this very quickly?
Yes, I think this is very important that they should make progress on for next year. And there is not very much time left. It's almost less than a year that's left for that. And I think once they start to go into the mode of election campaigning, and that will be early next year already, then it is already too late. So until the end of this year is possibly the window of opportunity for them to come to an agreement on this.
Professor Dirk Kotze, thank you. Professor of Political Science at the University of South Africa.